Okay, we were watching I Love Mar 69 playing Moira on Blizzard World. This is Diamond. I'm gonna guess that this is console, but I can confirm after. What do I need to improve on? I recently started playing Overwatch in the last 2 months. I've gotten into competitive. I seem to be stuck at a rank and can't get out. Would anyone want to review a few replays to help me out? I solo queue and generally main Moira, and then talks about some non-Moira related stuff. But let's take a look at the Moira gameplay. Okay, so if you're in Diamond, I assume you already have a pretty good idea. I mean, it's very the reason why I think it's console is because I think it's very rare for someone to start playing the game and get to Diamond. Diamond is very competitive in PC. You'd have to have really excellent mechanics, frankly, to be able to get the Diamond that quickly, especially on Moira on PC. So I assume this is console. But even then, you're still like significantly better than probably 75 to 90% of players out there. So very good, and congratulations for getting up that high so quickly. Played 195 ranked games. That's a lot. Right? You already cranked out 200 games in 2 months, and you won 99 of them, so you're about 50-50. Let's look at this game. So you're playing Moira here. You have a Zen, Sigma, Echo, and Cassidy. I assume your Zen is going to be healing the Echo, so it's your job to keep the Sigma and the Cassidy up. And just as a general, because I think you're new to Overwatch, you don't know. So Moira is generally considered one of the weaker supports, which doesn't say that you can't play Moira all the way to Masters and GM, but because she has no real utility, right? She doesn't have any sleeps, she doesn't have any disables, she doesn't have any protections like Suzu's, she doesn't have lamps, right? That piece of mortality field. She has, just she has mobility, but it's not even like a great vertical. Like you don't wall climb. You can fade jump, but you can't just jump that high unless you do some of the really advanced techniques, which we probably don't know. And in general, she's just like kind of a stat support, right? She's really, really good at getting high numbers, but not necessarily doing a lot to impact the game. What Moira does have going for her is the highest healing in the game. Just between regular spray plus Biotic Orb, you can heal something like 150 health a second. It's like some crazy number. Basically, almost as much damage as Bastion is doing at point blank, you can heal. A and B, Coalescence is one of the fastest to farm ultimates in the game. It both costs less, and because of the nature of your hero, where you get a lot of ultimate score really, really quickly, you can farm Coalescence really, really quickly. So as Moira, my advice for Moira is always like heal, do some damage, look for opportunities to like dive and commit on heroes when things get dicey, but mostly it's about farming Coalescence and using Coalescence to win every fight that you can, basically as soon as it's up. Right? Coalescence, again, not a super high impact ultimate, definitely considered one of the weaker ultimates in the game, but the speed at which you get it can be excellent for Temple, right? You can just constantly be overwhelming the opposing team. It's also not a good reactive ulti, right? If there are other teams initiating on you, Coalescence is not a good one to save your team, but it's a really good one in neutral to push things in your favor and force other stronger ultimates out. Okay, so for starters, you do a good job just kind of like tap spraying, right? So clearly you know about the healing over time. A, but B, like none of these heroes have taken any damage, right? You're healing people that are full health, number one. Number two, you just fade in here, but why? Like why did you go here? Like you didn't see anything. You weren't like forced out. Like no one's targeting you. You weren't taking any damage. There wasn't like a widow about to kill you or something like that. You just faded here for no reason. This is a massive mistake. And you're not going to get punished for it right now, but the fact that you did this at all tells me that you don't respect your cooldowns. So at higher ranks, people will identify when you use fade, they will come kill you, right? And I do this all the time as tank, is whenever I see Moira use fade, I immediately go and I kill her. And there's almost nothing you can do to stop them once you use fade. So you should always try your absolute best not to use fade. Okay, I think that's probably one of the best qualities of top tier Moira players is they save fade for when they really absolutely need it. And having your fade get forced out when you don't need it is usually fatal and often will cause you to lose the fight. See, you faded over here, and the hog, I mean, this isn't that close because he's like too far away, but you had no idea the hog was there, right? You just faded in randomly. What if the hog was on this side? Then you just die, right? You just come out in front of him, and then you die right away. So, big mistake. So, in general, if you have the choice between in sticky situations between throwing a healing orb and a damage orb, you throw the healing orb, Why? The healing orb heals 50% more than the damage. A, right? B is that healing is typically more valuable than damage is as a general rule for supports. It gets a little complicated, right? Because if you have your DPS fighting their DPS, is it more valuable to heal your DPS for 200 health or damage their DPS for 200 damage? Well, if you damage theirs for 200 damage, their DPS is dead, and you don't have to heal anything. I think that delaying the fight usually allows your team to recover and use abilities, while accelerating the fight, you're just not good at because your rate of damage is just not as good. So for perspective, your spray heals something like 90 health a second if you hold down mouse 1, right, or trigger, whatever it is on console. Number one. Number two, your damage only does, I think, like 35 damage a second, something like that, 35 or 40. So you do roughly like 40%, right, or half-ish of damage versus healing. So would you rather heal at 2x speed or damage at 1x speed? You know what I mean? Like, that's why healing is often a better thing. Point for point, damage is usually more valuable, but because your hero is designed to heal much more effectively, healing is a better idea. So that's number one. Because your Cassidy nearly dies here. In fact, your Cassidy would live here if you had been healing, if there's been a heal orb, because he doesn't even get charged here, like dead on. He gets clipped by the Rhine for 50 damage. So if you'd healed him for like 30 more health, which a healing orb easily would have done, then he would have lived. Number one. Number two. Right? You see this Rhine, this Roadhog here? You see how injured this Cassidy is? Why are you trying to damage the hog instead of going and healing your Cassidy? And first of all, you're too far away to heal, right? That's kind of problem number one if you're playing this pillar. But number two is, like, this damage orb is not going to do anything. Oh my god, I just realized what's going on. So, you are playing an open queue. Oh boy. I was like, wait a second, why are there two tanks? I almost want to stop this replay. So this is not your fault, because you don't know this, probably. So Overwatch originally had open queue, where anyone could choose any role. And that ended up being a nightmare to balance around and a nightmare to play. Nobody really enjoyed that for a variety of reasons. So they ended up switching to role queue, which is two tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 supports. Then when they switched to Overwatch 2, they dropped one of the tanks. So in Overwatch 2, the default competitive mode, right, role queue, is 1 tank, 2 DPS, and 2 support. So they left the old mode, right, open role queues around, so people can play that. It is considered by virtually everyone as not a particularly competitive mode. So the players you're playing here are A, going to be dramatically less skilled, but B, the game is going to be very chaotic in ways that are really hard for anyone to predict how it goes, just because there's so many possible options, right? That would be like saying in American football, like, any player can pass and catch, right? And then suddenly it's a completely different game because it's chaos. I mean, I'm not saying that it wouldn't necessarily be a good sport, but just the way that we think about American football, which is like, okay, you can only have, five receivers, and you have your quarterback, right? And like, that's sort of the way the whole system is designed. It's a very complex system, but if all 11 players can suddenly pass and catch, especially if they can both pass and catch forwards at any time, then you have an entirely different game that resembles something like handball, okay? That's the problem with open queue, is that I'm not going to be able to predict what will happen here. It is going to be very chaotic and weird. So I'm going to focus, I guess, generally on your mechanics, because, like, a lot of those things are still going to carry over, but I can't talk to you as much about, like, what will happen in terms of the game state because of how wacky this is gonna get. Alright. Maybe he's purple. So when he's purple like this, it means that he cannot be healed. This is anti-grenade from Ana. So no amount of healing is gonna do anything like that. So, this is why I was so surprised that you're diamond. What we're looking at right here is basically comparable to what bronze would be in role queue. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, diamond in competitive is something like top 5% of all players. This is nothing like that by any means. Like, I can just tell from everyone on both teams having no clue what is happening right now. Like, that Ryan should have died a million times already, A, and B, that Ryan should have never charged in. And you should never have been killed by that. So when you hear that charge, you're overhealing by way too much. Way too much. Alright, so watch right here. So first of all, Echo, you're healing, after you stop healing, I think it heals something like 50 health over 3 seconds, something like that, 45 health over 3 seconds. So each one of these boxes is 25 health, right? So if they have 2 boxes left, you tap them once, and then they'll heal all the way. So watch on this Echo. First of all, a lot of missing. Okay, so now you're healing. At this point, you can stop healing, basically, right? You see, right? She's full, right? That's wasting a ton of your heal juice. Unnecessarily. When you hear that, step back. Definitely don't step forward. And if you step forward accidentally, pop fade. You should never get killed by this. He's like too far away. Like if you hit a point blank, it can be hard, but with that much distance, you should easily dodge that. So your Sigma's in. You really need to go help your Sigma right now. Right? So I don't know why you fade there, right? Again, you're not in any danger. You just move slightly to the left. You would have been faster just walking it. Okay, again, healing someone who's full health. Healing way too much. You need to heal your Cassidy, right? Like you just walked by, you just walked by your Cassidy, who's missing, 150 health here. Alright, so let's watch you right here. Alright, you go, you healed Sigma. You see how much damage he's taken, right? Again. He's missing 125 right now, right? You just walk right by him without healing. This is very frustrating for the Cassidy. You shouldn't. This is honestly a waste of time. Moira Grasp is very low damage. Sigma blocks that, which is incredible. I don't think that was intentional. You really needed to heal your Sigma there. Right after this charge. So you should have been healing, right, the whole way to this point, right? And then, like, right now, he desperately needs healing. And now it's too late because he's got an anti and he's going to die. Alright, so you have Coalescence here. I'm probably going to stop after the first Coalescence. I think it was a reasonable fade. I think you could have faded faster to not take any damage, but I didn't right there. So, yeah. So, another thing is to draw a line. Draw a line between your tank and their tank, right? If their tank is right here, and let's say the Rhine was right here, let's like this lamppost. Imagine a line that goes across the battlefield like this. As a support, never cross this line. Okay? Never get in front of your tank. And what you're doing right here is you're getting ahead of your Sigma. Like, obviously their tank is dead, but you can just imagine, like, where their tank probably would be. So you should never be going in first as Moira. You see how you're leading right now? That's going to cause you to get killed at higher levels. So let's watch this Coalescence. Okay, so you got 2 people here, and you're kind of coalescing. First of all, don't think of Coalescence as a damage ultimate, right? It heals, I think, 3 times as much as it damages. So again, not a great choice from a damaging perspective. Like, if you want to damage as a support, you should play Zen or you should play Baptiste. Okay, both of whom are excellent damaging heroes. Even Anna is like okay at doing damage. Moira is okay doing damage only in certain scenarios, right? Like, yeah, she needs the damage to get her heal back, but it's not to get kills. It's mostly just to farm heal juice, okay? Coalescence can be used to kill people, but you need to track them for 4 whole seconds to kill someone, to kill a 200 health hero if they don't get any healing, right? That is an eternity in Overwatch, okay? That is, like, 4 seconds, for perspective, it does less damage than if you just stood on top of them, meleeing them to death. You would kill them faster with melee. Just for perspective. So it really isn't as much damage as you think it does. A. B. You don't need to use this Coalescence at all. Right? You have 5 people right here, right? Your whole team is basically here. They have 3 people, and their tank is great. Both of their tanks are crazy far away. Right? This fight is won already. You don't need to pop anything. This is a huge waste of Coalescence. Like, what is this Roadhog doing? See, stuff like this, like you have a Roadhog who's AFK and taking also, like, I don't know where this Roadhog was going that he ended up going over here. Like, why is this Roadhog even here to begin with? You know what I mean? Like, this Roadhog, like, he spawns over here. He could just go to the left. He went to the right. Now he's sitting over here by the coast. He's AFK. This is why you don't play open queue, right? This, for people to go AFK in a competitive game would feel absolutely insane. Okay, I'm just gonna stop the video here because I don't think it's super valuable. Short answer is I think you just need to play way more hours. 1, 2, stay behind your tank. 3, don't use fade unnecessarily. 4, focus on healing over damage, and 5, use ultimates when the fights are even, right? Not when you're gonna win the fight. And probably 6, most importantly of all, I would stop playing open queue immediately and play roll queue. All right, hopefully that's helpful.